This episode of Telling Our Stories is sponsored by Say It in a Card, an online greeting card company. Visit us today, www.sayitinaCard.com. If you feel it, we say it in a card. Free shipping while supplies last.
We're excited to announce the launch of an incredible new app we've created for our friend and client, Craig TheWriter. If you haven't heard of Craig, he's the brilliant host of the Fag Talk on YouTube. Definitely go check that out. So we're introducing his new app called Say It in a Card. This isn't just any card app. Say It in a Card offers a unique, heartfelt way to connect with your loved ones. You can send a personalized card, each featuring a special message penned by Craig himself. But wait, it gets better. Do you want to add your own personal touch? You can customize your message to make it truly one of a kind. So download the app now and make sure you support Craig and his team, and I'll see you at the next one.
Previously on Telling Our Stories.
How old are you again?
50.
How young do you go?
35.
Whoa.
Okay.
You in the game?
Oh, you in the game. You in the game, Charles.
The name
Kind of lends itself.
like, and if you're calling it Jack, it's kind of implied, like, you know.
You're jacking. Or you're grinding. Welcome to season 3 of Telling Our Stories. I'm calling it Black, Gay, and Aging. This season was inspired by various conversations I had with a few friends. And from those conversations, the idea was born. I'm constantly inspired to create work that will heal our community, both Black and queer. So I invited 8 friends to my house to discuss being Black, gay, and aging. This conversation changed me. I felt it in the moment as it was happening. Telling Our Stories, Season 3, Black, Gay, and Aging. I think that there is a distinction between companionship and relationships. Yeah. I think more people now are interested in companionship. Somebody to hang out with for the weekend. Maybe you might take a quick little weekend trip. Somebody that you can call up every now and then to fuck. You go out to eat with, watch a movie. But when it comes to the long-term stuff, like really building real partnership, living together, making life decisions together, you know, all of that kind of stuff, I don't think that most are really looking for that.
I don't think I am.
So are you?
Well, that's very different from what you said outside.
I'm a bit fuzzy on that though, Craig, because partnership, no matter what you call it, is a variation of all those things. Mm-hmm. Because if I am dealing with somebody who's not a friend, right? Mm-hmm. I am in partnership with you, whether I call it marriage or whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. So you don't necessarily have to get into a partnership saying, I expect this person to do all these things that a friend can probably do. For me, partnership looks very different because I may be okay with just saying, I don't need to live with my partner.
Right.
I'm not talking about living.
Take trips with somebody. I just want to have somebody as, I'm not saying that this is true, I'm just saying I would be okay with this. But a couple of years ago, not that I would do this coming out of the gate, but I educated myself more on what poly relationships are and what open relationships look like, because I had to ask myself, could I do something like that? And would I do something like that?
But see, that's the thing. I don't know if we're always as honest from the gate about what kind of relationship we want. Whether you're talking about an open relationship or you just want to spend time with me and you want to come over sometimes and we go do stuff sometimes, but you still want to fuck other people and da-da-da-da. Like, I don't think most people are coming through the gate saying that because it's an opportunity for that other person to say, oh no, this isn't what I'm looking for. That's too much. And so a lot of times I think people will say or move or behave in the way that they think you want to so that you don't rule them out.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Like wholeheartedly.
I did have a follow-up question to the people that were in long-term relationships. Like, at what point were you in a marriage as well, or was that just a long-term relationship? Because I know we talk about marriage, but you guys were in a long-term relationship. Why was marriage not an option?
Because we couldn't get married at the time.
Oh, at that time. Okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
But it wasn't marriage.
Gotcha.
It wasn't marriage. Yeah, his idea of a relationship was totally different from mine, I realized, because he became the woman of the house.
Okay.
And he was comfortable in that role, but I wasn't looking for a woman.
Right.
Are you looking for a housewife?
He became the woman, meaning became more domestic and he wasn't contributing to the bills and da-da-da. Right.
He could bake his ass, he could cook his ass. He could bake, he had great parties, and that's what he lived for.
Right.
And he had a good job, he paid the bills, but yard work, which was fine. We turned into this husband-wife thing instead of a husband-husband thing. You know what I mean?
So what does partnership look like for you then? Because everybody has a different idea of what partnership is, and I don't know if we really have those conversations going in about our expectations.
Well, I think that's the important part of it all. Is
I think we just find ourselves in this relationship.
right? Yeah, I think like every different stage in the relationship, you should have a conversation about.
Yeah.
It. Like so, for example, when I go back to my relationship, when we had a conversation about moving in together. It didn't just like one day it just came on like, oh no, we talked about it and what is that encompassing and stuff like that.
Right.
But I think it just sometimes the communication part just falls apart. Like you said, like sometimes we tend to act in a way I think how you want me to act. Like and so like a lot of things get missed, it don't get discussed, and it's just a buildup of everything. Yeah.
I think partnership looks different depending on the person because like a job, duties and responsibilities change for every single job. So depending on the person, I mean, your strengths and your weaknesses
are different. Yeah. Because if you're in a relationship with Ryan, the roles and responsibilities may be one thing, but then you're in a relationship with somebody else, they change.
Because they might be stronger in this aspect, and I might be weak. I might be stronger than Ryan, but weaker than this other person.
Right.
You know, it's going to change depending on who the person is.
So is cheating a deal breaker?
No.
Define cheating though.
Oh Lord. I mean, that's a good question.
That's a good question. Because I had a conversation with somebody the other day, and they told me that they stopped being with somebody because they kissed someone else.
No.
What?
Yeah, he said his boyfriend
cheating
kissed.
is when you step outside of the agreement. I don't think we have conversations around what the true agreement is.
What the real boundaries are.
We have real conversations. I think if you tell a nigga on day one, yo, I'm not interested in having sex with you or the one person the rest of my life, I think that's an honest conversation to have on day one. It don't mean I want to try day one, year one, or year 2 or 3. But at year 6, if I say I want to do things, I need to be able to say to you on day one, hey, down the line this might be an option. That's me showing up authentic, and I need to have that space. I don't think we show up whole. I think one thing I've not heard here is about how do we allow guys to show up with a level of self-awareness that makes them compatible for a relationship. You know, I'm attracted to a guy that's doing the work. I'm not saying you got to have everything perfect, but are you doing the work on yourself? Because a strong individual makes a strong couple. And if you bring in a weak link over here, we don't need to join. You weak and I'm strong. That's not going to be balanced. So I think you got to be strong as an individual first before you enter into anything. Then you can communicate. Then you can behave appropriately or how you want to on Jack. You can do those other things, but how do you show up as an individual to the relationship?
So what's doing the work?
Increasing your awareness, having honest conversations with yourself about yourself, healing your trauma. If I'm going to use your example about staying in relationships longer, if that were to be unpacked, it'll give him a tool going forward for the relationship. But he's got to unpack, why do I stick around in relationships longer? Although I saw my mother model this, and it's not necessarily healthy, but I've inherited that. So that's some work to do. And I'm only using that because you spoke about it. Right. I think when we start to do those types of work, we can show up as a stronger individual.
Right. So Charles, what does cheating look like for you? Because obviously, we were all like, what?
Well, so I think cheating looks like for me. Let's say hypothetically I'm in a relationship and men are men. They have slip ups. So like a one-off.
Are they all slip ups?
Now, if you're having a full-fledged relationship with somebody else, then that's like a deal breaker.
That's an affair.
Yeah, so like an affair. But I feel like if you had a slip up where you might have had sex with someone, then because I personally don't think cheating is on me. It's on the individual. So that's the work they have to do. So I would want to go to counseling and therapy if something like that happens. I don't think it's necessarily a deal breaker for me per se.
What if they have a slip up every other month?
That's what I'm. Yeah. So when it becomes chronic.
With the same person. That's a deal breaker.
And that's what I want to know. Like, what's the distinction? Like, where do you give grace? Yeah. Is it one time and then it doesn't happen again for another 5 years? Or
well, if it happens again, that's definitely a deal breaker.
It's not a slip up.
No, it's not a slip up.
It's a decision.
Right. It's a decision.
Well, it goes back to that agreement.
And it depends on how long you've been with somebody like this.
Well, if you've had that honest conversation with your partner to say, well, how do you partner define cheating? and how do I define cheating, you all should be on the same page with what
Agree.
looks like,
Same page.
and say, okay, well, what are our guardrails or guidelines on how we navigate this should it come up? So keeping open lines of communication is the only way that you're going to be able to navigate.
Because I think we tend to go into relationships aspiring to have monogamy, but in the back of our mind, we sometimes think like, are we really being realistic about this?
How do you bring up a relationship to your partner about cheating without them thinking this is what you want to do?
Right.
How do you navigate that?
Like in your example, like you said, if you go in, once you decide that you're going to be together, let's say you've been dating for 6 months, a year, whatever, and then you decide, okay, we're going to be in a relationship. At that moment, do you say, okay, well, listen, I know right now I can be faithful, but I don't know what year 5 and 6 are going to look like. I might want to sleep with somebody else.
That should be day one type of conversation.
But we're not.
Don't take
Day
me.
one?
Don't take me down the road.
We're not
and
having
for
those
6 months.
conversations,
Don't take me down the road to 6 months and then give me this whole scenario.
So are you saying that when you get into your relationship, like the one that you're going to marry, if he cheated, what's your reaction? What's your response? Are you leaving? Are you done?
Counseling. We got to go to counseling first. But I would love to know what led you there. That would be my thing.
And words matter. I don't think you would walk into, I believe in having that conversation day one to say, hey, we don't know, neither one of us know what this is going to look like in 5 years. I would just want to put out there, let's project out. What are we open to versus not? This is not to say something, because we don't have a crystal ball.
Correct. But it goes back to what Tito said. When you're in a relationship with somebody for 10 years, your needs change. And how do you know?
They do change. It goes back to keep the fucking communication.
Exactly. I agree.
I don't want to go into a relationship with somebody that we have to have this conversation.
I feel the same way. I'm with you. I don't want to have this conversation.
I just don't get it. Why are we talking about this in a monogamous relationship?
Correct.
In my mind, this is why gay fucking relationships don't work, because we are not having those conversations when we come into this shit.
Or is it that we have unrealistic expectations of monogamy? Right. Or do we have unrealistic expectations of monogamy? Do you think monogamy is real? Is it a real thing?
I think it is.
I do.
It depends on the person.
It is.
I do.
I want to be in a relationship where we grow, and if you cheat, it bothers your conscience just as much as it's going to bother me.
Right.
And you can come to me and tell me you cheated, and we can discuss that then.
See, I think if this is
But
a
I want you to tell me
conversation
that
about
you may cheat in the
values,
future.
this is not.
Say that again.
It's a conversation about values, shared values. Like that's really the bigger picture. Like your values and my values are complementary of one another.
I agree.
They're not necessarily. It's not about cheating. It's about our value system.
Yeah. Do they align? And I
align?
think what happens is we find ourselves in relationships with people whose values don't align with ours.
Right.
But shouldn't we have figured that out throughout the dating and compatibility?
Well, what happens is I think it's attraction. Attraction takes over.
Attraction takes over.
Well, what you say?
Or did we see it on day one and ignore it because we just
Come on, somebody, because the attraction was there.
The attraction took over.
Now,
or I be thinking they're gonna change for me.
there you go.
Or I can change for them.
Yes.
To go back to what he said, if he tells me, okay, in 5 years, my needs might change, then in the back of my head, I'm going to keep thinking like,
At what point is it going to change? I'm looking.
Year 4.
I'm looking.
That's the whole. Why are we having this? It's like goal setting.
And so you're never really settling into the relationship because you're waiting for the shoe to drop.
Right. I am waiting for the shoe to drop.
It's part of the romanticization we have made out of relationships, the idea that they're going to be forever.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Do we go into them with this unrealistic expectation because we aspire
For it to be forever.
For it to be forever, but is that realistic? And that's just kind of where I am now. Like I still believe in love.
I do too.
But I'm kind of shifting when it comes to how I relationship. Because it just feels like people relationship differently, and it goes back to everything that we said outside, whether it's social media, whether it's where a person is in terms of their trauma and healing that trauma, where they are in terms of how comfortable they are in their sexuality, on and on and on and on and on. So, I mean, I think that there's so many variables. And so for me, at this space in my life, I'm like, I've always wanted to have the house with someone. I never really cared about the marriage, the ceremony per se. Was okay with it either way, but I just wanted the long-term thing. We live together, we have a house together, da-da-da. But now, looking at the landscape of dating, and this is not just in the gay community or the queer community, I see it in the straight community because I'm looking over there too, and they ain't doing nothing no better. But
I do love all her baby daddies.
right, but my thing is, it's like, what's the point of buying a house with someone when you motherfuckers ain't staying in relationships longer than about 2-3 years? Because the average here is about 3 years, 3.5, if we add up all these numbers.
Yeah.
So it's like, what's the point of going to closing to buy a house?
But like we said,
What's the point of that?
If you can't manage a 12-year lease on an apartment,
You can't even manage. You can't even make it through a 12-month lease on an apartment.
Commit to a
30-year mortgage.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like Torrance. Like, you live in your house and I'm gonna live in mine.
But I think like what we were saying earlier, if we take it slower, where the
Hold on, Charles. We need a moment for that. You live in your house and I'm gonna live in mine. Because I'm okay in my sandbox, to use Scott's analogy. Yeah. And I ain't gotta worry about you snoring.
Oh shit.
I'm gonna represent both of y'all on these deals.
Right. No. Calvin is the realtor. Calvin is the realtor.
The broker in the house.
What did you want to say, Charles?
You were supposed to have your card ready.
Right.
But I'm saying if we take it slower, where we're meeting certain benchmarks, let's say we're dating for like 3 to 5 years before we even get to marriage, and then by the time you're married, that's like year 5 to 7, then you could probably start buying a house because you're actually building something. But like we were mentioning earlier, we rush so fast into things. That's why we run into the process of getting the house and you're 2 years in a relationship and then follow.
Coming up next on Telling Our Stories. He's from South Carolina. And that's just, I think that was revolutionary that a black father at that time from that city, would be that supportive. Rejoice Wellness Care. Rejuvenate enough joy of yourself causes excitement. Rejoice Wellness Care is your sanctuary for nurturing your mind, body, soul, and spiritual well-being. Rejoice provides holistic healing, breathing techniques, Reiki, grief care, and spiritual care. Contact us today, rejoicewellnesscare@gmail.com, or call us at 516-930-7949. Services provided in person or online.
We're excited to announce the launch of an incredible new app we've created for our friend and client, Craig TheWriter. If you haven't heard of Craig, he's the brilliant host of the Fag Talk on YouTube. Definitely go check that out. So we're introducing his new app called Say in a Card. This isn't just any card app. Say in a Card offers a unique, heartfelt way to connect with your loved ones. You can send a personalized card, each featuring a special message penned by Craig himself. But wait, it gets better. Do you want to add your own personal touch? You can customize your message to make it truly one of a kind. So download the app now and make sure you support Craig and his team, and I'll see you at the next one.
When you talk about black gay men or queer men who date white men, I'm understanding now that sometimes these black men aren't dating white men just because they have identity issues, just because they some fucking Uncle Tom. Sometimes that's the case. But sometimes I believe these men date white because they believe that that's their only chance at something long term. Because a lot of black gay men don't seem to be trying to build. And part of it can be attributed to or ascribed to their childhood. Most didn't see it. And in terms of like long distance relationships, who would date long distance? Okay.
I don't think I'll do it now, but I have.
Okay, now what about if the relationship you start in the same city, and then he or you get a job someplace else? Why does it feel like our relationships tend to end? Why does geography determine whether or not we're gonna stay together? So what's the answer?
Well, in his scenario, I asked somebody that question. He was saying that he didn't want to give up his base where he was, where family, friends, support system, and he wouldn't have had that system wherever his partner was moving. So that's why he ended up breaking up. Yeah.
But then my question is, well, were you really in love? Because like I don't know if I would think I would have to leave.
That part, this is where with men it becomes real tricky. Yeah. Because men are not conditioned as women are in society to be a bit more sacrificial when it comes to partnership.
So we're on that heteronormative street now.
That heteronormative shit pops up where you're like, oh, well, you're moving and I'm not gonna move. It's this ego thing with men that I think you have to navigate. And it doesn't go away because you're gay.
And I think also because we've all heard stories, child. You know, he moved to D.C. with such and such. Child, they were there for 3 months and they broke up. You know what I mean? We done heard the stories, and nobody wants to be the next story.
Well, I think that also goes back if you laid the foundation where you're dating 3 to 5 years, then I would feel more comfortable moving with someone. If I'm dating like 6 months to a year, I don't necessarily know if I'm comfortable with moving to a new area.
And you should be.
Well, if your partner has had the conversation with you that they said, I'm looking out for your best interest with this move just as much as I'm looking out for mine, that should give you a level of comfort that says, okay, I'm not in this alone.
Okay. Yeah.
If that's not there, then I will have some trepidation.
Now, what about dating outside of your race? Would you? Have you?
Have and will.
Okay.
I have.
Have
I
and
am
will.
on the fence about if I would do it again. I probably would not.
Okay. You haven't. Okay, I'm gonna get to the I haven'ts next. So the ones who have, what are the benefits? Have there been benefits or pros and cons or pros of dating outside of your races?
I'm gonna need another drink.
Right, go ahead and get your drink. And I'm gonna preface it with this. I'm gonna lay the foundation with this. And Torrance, don't you say nothing. So I met someone through Torrance. We were actually here one day, and they know each other from Chicago. And this guy is a black guy. He now lives in Australia. He's been in Australia now for 10 years, but after about a year of being there, he got into a relationship with a white guy. Now, there's not much of a black gay scene or community there. And so I think this is his first time dating a white guy, I think he said. I think he had always dated black. But he said there is work, but it doesn't feel like the work that he did when he was dating black guys. So I'm prefacing that with that.
I would say for me, and it's very honest.
Be honest, this is a diary.
Very honest. So number one, I am from Ohio.
And so is Scott.
We're gonna put that out there. But it was a lot easier.
In what way?
It was a lot easier. It wasn't stressful. He was very easygoing. It's just that he moved away and I just couldn't do that. I was not ready for that life.
So what ways was it easier though? What do you mean when you say it was less stress?
Partnership was easier. Like I've been in relationships to where it just seems like it's always a
tug of war.
Yeah, it's a tug of war.
Around what? Sex? Around outness?
No, kind of like I feel like two people want to be the alpha. Two people. It's kind of like what he said, the whole husband and wife thing, and I'm still on that part, but I'm trying to get past that.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, why not husband? But anyway. But it was like two people being alpha, but like with he and I, we coexisted. It was easy. It was like being with my best friend.
Yeah.
We're still friends.
Yeah.
But it was just like, it was easier.
Yeah.
I date black guys and it's exhausting. I want to put that out there. It's exhausting.
Yeah. Dating black guys.
I'm sorry.
I agree.
With everything he said, you don't want to add anything to that?
Well, I would say that the communication is easier just because they typically are more in tune. They have better interpersonal skills.
Because white people are socialized differently than we are.
Right. Yeah. And they're acutely aware of feelings
and
and
emotions.
they can express them immediately typically. Or, or not necessarily even immediately, but they can at least come back and sit down and have a conversation with you. Whereas we just don't do
We shut down, we stop calling.
Right.
And these are generalizations, so don't be emailing me.
White men do the same thing.
Yeah.
White men do it as well, for sure. We're not saying.
I'm just saying my experience.
Right.
Like that, the white guys, or, I've dated Latino guys too. That's been my experience. So.
Yeah.
I will say the white guys that I've met lately, they're more out there now than it was in the past.
What you mean out there?
Like they want the threesome, they want the open relationship, but at least they tell you that from day one. Compared to black people be like, oh, let me tell you that a year later. I'm a
hide for a while. Yeah.
They didn't give me their representative.
Right.
But do you think, Ryan, it's the community versus Ohio versus Atlanta?
That is true. Because if I was in Ohio, I don't get that.
You don't get that from who?
From white guys.
You don't get what from white guys?
Like the whole, they want to be open. The whole open.
Okay.
They want to settle down. They want the.
If you were in Ohio.
Yeah.
It's a Midwest values.
Okay, yes, the Midwest values. So the white guys in Ohio are different from the white guys here.
Well, the black guys in Ohio should be different from the black guys here.
They probably.
So one thing about Ohio, the gay is not as what's the word I want to use? Like, this is not Atlanta. It's not so accepted. That's the word. So I mean, like, I came out the closet late. Not as late as him, but I did.
I wasn't 28.
But I mean, like, I didn't go to my first gay club until I was like, what, 25?
And see, I was 22. I was 22, and geography does play a part. It does.
My first gay club basically was a ball. And it was like, you had to go to a different city to experience that.
Right.
That's in Ohio. Here
I
it's
never
like,
had no closet.
So, what'd you say?
I never had a closet.
With that, I'm gonna come to you next, Torrance. But with that comment right there, you've never had a closet to hide in. I want you to tell that story about your dad. I want you to tell a story, Calvin. Tell the story about your dad, and tell it the way you told me, or I'm gonna have to improvise. I'm gonna have to add into it. You know the story. Go ahead.
About the baby doll?
Yes.
Oh, Lord.
Y'all remember the big baby dolls that had the rollers at the bottom, and it was like a doll head.
Oh, yeah.
Like a beautician doll. So my sister had one. We used to fight about that thing every night. So my dad said, why you fighting with her about that? That's her doll. And so she had a white doll. About a week later, my dad came home with my own doll.
A week later, his dad came home.
And I had a black doll. He gave me my little black doll. And I would put so much grease in the doll's hair I couldn't comb it through. And I was afraid of the dark. Like, when he turned the lights off, I was afraid of the dark. So my dad said, go in the bathroom and wash the grease out the doll's hair. And I looked at him. I'm not going to that dark hallway. So my dad walked into the bathroom with me, sat on the toilet, and watched me wash that doll's hair. And I combed it through. He said, you got to keep the grease out the hair. You can't just put powdered grease in the hair. So my dad's always been open with me about my sexuality. You know, I've never had an issue. My brothers and sisters never bothered me about me wanting to play with dolls. You know.
And I think that's really powerful because, again, he's from South Carolina. And that's just, I think, for me, I think that was revolutionary that a black father at that time from that city, would be that supportive.
Yeah. And my dad used to always tell my brothers and sisters, y'all know that boy crazy. That boy crazy.
When he said that about you?
Yeah, he said, y'all know that boy crazy. Because my dad would want to spank me.
Yeah.
You want to hit me?
You would say that to
I
him.
said, you want to try to be puzzled.
You want to hit me? Right.
Mama's a little boy alone.
But the thing, too, is I think that would also change the trajectory of many of us. You know what I'm saying? Like, if we had that kind of support from our fathers and black families.
Because you
before
can be authentic
in
who you are.
And I think that leads to us coming into this community and not saying to you, here is who I am, right from the gate.
And I remember my brother called me a sissy one day in front of my grandmother. My brother said, don't you ever say that again. If he's a sissy, he ain't the first and he ain't gonna be the damn last.
Okay. I know that's right.
But I wonder, is that struggle that you're talking about, us not being able to show it, is that why you feel more comfortable dating a white guy?
Because typically
they don't come with that.
They don't come with that.
Correct.
Yeah,
typically, white families, they just allow their kids, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen, because we already know that there are white families who send their kids through shock treatment and all that other shit. But generally speaking, they allow them to just be who they are. I think that's why a lot of times they have a sense of entitlement, because their parents and family make them think they can overcome the world.
Right.
Torrance, you had said something you wanted to say about your experience dating outside of your race.
Oh, no, it's just an agreement with both of the things that they said. And I'm originally from Chicago, so Midwest. It's a bit different. But to Scott's point, it's the huge difference, and my friend mentioned the same thing, the differentiation in the trauma and the emotional maturity that you have to navigate.
Yeah.
Like, just being black myself, you know the shit that you have to unpack. Like daddy issues, all the other stuff.
Right.
When I was dating a white guy, and I dated an Indian guy too, it was like, oh, wow. I don't have to Ryan's point, it's lighter. I don't have to have these discussions where
These
we're
masks.
unpacking this stuff.
Yeah.
Because they don't navigate and they're not socialized like that, so it just doesn't come up.
Yeah.
Versus black men, where it's kind of like you walk into it knowing I'm
Here's the
going to have to
bullshit.
deal with some shit because
Right.
it's ingrained in us to say, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah.
Like, what's going to happen?
Tell the
Now,
people why you don't date white people.
As I get older, though, and I become a lot more introspective about how do I want to show up for myself in my relationships, platonic and intimate, and romantically for me. This is not to say I would never, ever absolutely date outside my race again, but it's become a lot less likely because I don't want to have to, I don't want to have to grieve certain aspects of my personality in that relationship.
You think you would have to shrink?
I would have to shrink in some aspects, and I don't want to have to educate all the time. I feel like I have to educate on things all the time,
I'm so glad you said
especially
that.
when I walk into my friend groups. Because I don't want to walk into a space, and this is a real thought that I've had of myself. I said, if I had a white partner, and I am going to Craig's house.
Oh my God!
No, this is an honest thing,
Go ahead.
Craig, because you think about your friend groups and who's close in your sort of family circle, right? And you say, well, would I want to subject my partner? And this does not diminish anything about who you are.
No,
'cause
it's
you are no
fine.
different than any other person. I have to now think about how is my partner going to be comfortable or not navigating my friend groups. I don't even want to think about that shit.
But what do you think would happen if he came over here or if we were out together? What do you think?
It would have nothing to do with you. I would have to be conscientious about where's my partner along his journey on him being comfortable around black folks having a real honest conversation around race. Right? Like, he may not say anything because I've been in those situations where my partner was in that space and we did talk freely. When we got home, he's like, well, I don't understand this, or I was uncomfortable here and there. And as a black person, you really have to think, damn, am I always going to have to do this shit?
Right.
Next time on Telling Our Stories. We're talking about how people have shown up for us and why it hasn't worked because some people are distracted, they're on social media. But I will be first to admit that I have also been somebody's disappointment.
As a black gay man who's single, who has no children, what if I fall in the shower? Who's going to be able to dispatch here quickly to make sure I'm good?
Why are they sitting here making eyes at each other? These two on the corner, Scott and Ryan.
We were just having a conversation.
The troublemakers.
You've reached a particular age when you talk about walking has allowed you to lose some weight. Yeah, I just lost weight just from walking. Power walking.
Yeah, power walking.
Look, you can't just be out there strolling like.
Oh, no.
Right, no.
Yeah, oh yeah.
The ball walk.
One of the best parts of life is when you can admit the truth to yourself about yourself. Cyberspace is a world where one can become something he isn't, but everything he dares to be. I wasn't interested in getting attached to anyone, and I knew I wouldn't take anyone I met online seriously. I had multiple screen names to increase my chances of meeting someone attractive. The majority of the profiles noted HIV negative under status, but I knew better from the work I had done in the HIV community. I knew 1 out of 3 black gay men was positive. The messages I found in my inbox validated me in my depression. In some strange way, they reinforced that I was worthy and deserving. My days consisted of waking up and logging on to see how many messages had accrued overnight. Months passed before I got honest with my therapist about what was happening with me. And before I knew it, I heard myself say, I've been having sex with people I meet online. To listen to more of Words Never Spoken in Memoir, visit audible.com.